Tyler Kinnon Nulisch was a man of the water, a Florida Keys native who had built his life around the turquoise seas that surrounded his island home. Those who knew him said he was simply one of the best people who had ever lived. But on the early morning of the 17th of June 2023, Tyler's life would be cut brutally short. Shot in the back with a single bullet from a 9mm handgun, the 29-year-old would utter his final words to identify his killer before dying on the living room floor of his Big Coppitt Key home. Those words would prove to be the key piece of evidence that would send his girlfriend of 9 months to prison. For those who knew them, Tyler Nulisch and Brittany Nicole Holbrook seemed like the perfect match. Both were passionate about the marine life that defined the Florida Keys. Both loved diving and fishing. Both had made their livings from the water that surrounded their island paradise. Tyler had been born on the 5th of March 1993, a true child of the Keys. His mother, Lisa Van Dyke, and stepfather, Tim Trivett, had raised him alongside his brother Tanner. Tyler's biological father, Tyler Nulisch, had died before him, but Tyler had built a family from his friends and the close-knit fishing community that became his world. At 29, Tyler was known throughout the Lower Keys as a man you could count on. His friends Brett Cantler and Torre Palmino would later tell reporters that Tyler was simply one of the best people they'd ever known. He was hardworking, loyal, and had an infectious love of life that drew people to him. Brittany Holbrook, 33, had moved to the Keys about 9 months before she met Tyler. Originally from Stuart, Florida, she'd attended Florida Keys Community College and worked in the marine industry. By the time she met Tyler, she owned a paddleboard rental and tour company at a Key West hotel. She seemed to fit perfectly into the laid-back Keys lifestyle. The pair had been introduced through mutual friends who worked in the marine industry. Their shared love of diving and fishing quickly blossomed into romance. Within months, they were living together at 491 Avenue F on Big Coppitt Key, sharing the stilted home with a roommate named 44-year-old Jordan Kinn. To their friends, Tyler and Brittany appeared happy. They worked in similar industries, spent their free time on the water together, and seemed to complement each other perfectly. But beneath the surface, there were warning signs that would only become clear in hindsight. Jessica Stiegel, who was dating one of Tyler's childhood friends, had witnessed something troubling about Brittany's behavior. She would later tell investigators that Brittany seemed normal most of the time, but when she drank, a switch would flip. She'd become what Jessica described as a monster, screaming and throwing things and hitting Tyler. But Tyler never reported any abuse. He never called police. He never filed any complaints against Brittany during their 9-month relationship. However, friends had witnessed multiple disturbing incidents that painted a darker picture of their relationship. One particularly troubling episode occurred at a friend's birthday party, where Tyler's friends had organized a gathering to help him reconnect with an old friend and former roommate who happened to be Brittany's ex-boyfriend, Chris Jaffe. The intention was to help them put the past behind them and move forward as friends. But Brittany had different plans. According to witness accounts, she became enraged when Tyler didn't react negatively to seeing his ex-roommate. At the American Rock Bar, witnesses saw her scratching and slapping Tyler, leaving everyone feeling uncomfortable about the situation. Later that night, friends noticed blood on Tyler's shirt and on other people's shirts. They jokingly called her the witch, not realizing the sinister implications. She broke a bunch of stuff in the house, she wrecked the house, and she beat Tyler up pretty bad that night, one friend would later tell investigators. That room was full of broken glass when everybody had to go clean it up. That's when everybody knew there seriously was a problem going on. Another incident occurred at a wedding, where Brittany's alcohol-fueled violence erupted in front of multiple witnesses. During the drive home, a friend innocently mentioned something about Brittany's father's hunting property. When Tyler asked Brittany about it, without hesitation, she throws a fucking left-hand hook and punches him in the face. The friend recalled. She says, "Don't ever fucking talk about my dad." Then, 2 days before Tyler would die, on the 15th of June 2023, at Hogfish Bar, whilst drinking with Marissa, the girlfriend of one of Tyler's close friends, Brittany discussed an ex-boyfriend she was angry with, Chris Jaffe. According to Marissa's later testimony to investigators, Brittany's words were disturbing in their specificity and violence. She said, "She was doing the stabbing motion with her arm. She said she would go in and then all the way up to his neck. She said she would kill him." Marissa remembered thinking Brittany was being psychotic and aggressive about someone she hadn't even dated in over a year. The casual way Brittany described the violence, complete with physical demonstrations, left Marissa so disturbed that she called Tyler to pick them up early. But those who knew about Brittany's drinking had seen her capacity for violence before. When alcohol was involved, friends said Brittany would transform into someone completely different. The laid-back Keys lifestyle that seemed to suit her so well would give way to explosive anger and physical aggression. Friday evening, 16th June 2023, started like many others for Tyler, Brittany, and their roommate Jordan Kinn. The trio returned from work and gathered on the patio beneath their stilted home, a common gathering spot where they could enjoy the warm Keys evening and unwind from the day. They drank alcoholic beverages together as the sun set over the water. Trial testimony would later reveal that illegal drugs was also used that evening, adding another volatile element to an already dangerous mix. Eventually, all three went to their respective bedrooms to sleep, but the peace wouldn't last long. At approximately 2:45 in the morning on the 17th of June, Jordan Kinn was jolted awake by the sound of arguing coming from the living room. He could hear Tyler and Brittany's voices raised in anger, but couldn't make out the words. Then he heard Brittany scream. Kinn rushed from his bedroom to the living room, where he found Tyler lying on the floor in a spreading pool of blood. Tyler was drifting in and out of consciousness, his life ebbing away with each laboured breath. When Kinn asked what had happened, Tyler summoned the strength to speak. His final words would prove to be the most important testimony in the case that would follow. "That bitch shot me in the back," Tyler said. According to Kinn's later testimony, Brittany was cradling Tyler when he made this accusation, but she showed no reaction to his words. No denial, no shock, no protest of innocence. Kinn immediately called 911. On the recording, his voice is urgent and panicked as he tells the dispatcher, "He's in bad shape. He's hurt real bad and there is a lot of blood." The dispatcher can hear Kinn asking Brittany where Tyler was bleeding. Her response was matter of fact. He was bleeding from his back. Within 4 to 5 minutes, Monroe County Sheriff's Office deputies and detectives arrived at the scene, followed closely by paramedics from Monroe County Fire Rescue. They found Brittany still cradling the blood-covered Tyler on the living room floor. Tyler Kinnon Nulisch was pronounced dead at Lower Keys Medical Center at 3:46 a.m., approximately 1 hour after deputies first arrived at the scene. The crime scene told a clear story, and it wasn't the one Brittany Holbrook would try to sell to investigators. Deputies found Brittany's 9mm Smith & Wesson handgun lying on the living room floor near a dog kennel, along with a single spent shell casing. The weapon, which belonged to Brittany, had been fired once. The autopsy revealed that Tyler had died from a single gunshot wound to his lower left back. He had been shot from behind, meaning he wasn't facing his attacker when the fatal shot was fired. The bullet wound was documented in crime scene and autopsy photographs, along with additional evidence that told a story of violence. But the autopsy revealed something even more disturbing. Tyler's body showed clear signs of physical abuse. Multiple injuries to his head and neck that pointed to a violent struggle and a pattern of ongoing violence, not a single incident of self-defense. Tyler's body showed bruising around his neck and scratches on his skin, suggesting he had been attacked before being shot. But when investigators examined Brittany, they found something that would prove crucial to the case. There were no marks of any kind around Brittany's throat. No bruising, no scratches, no petechiae. The burst capillary dots in the eyes that are a hallmark indicator of strangulation. medical examiners found absolutely no physical evidence to support any claim that Tyler had strangled or attempted to strangle Brittany. What they did find was bruising on several knuckles of Brittany's right hand, evidence that suggested she had struck someone. But perhaps the most telling evidence was discovered by friends after the fact. During the investigation, there was some confusion about where Brittany normally stored her weapon. Jordan Kinn told investigators he saw a gun sitting there in the holster, which I'm pretty sure was his. However, other evidence suggested Brittany normally kept her gun in her purse, which she stored in her unlocked car downstairs beneath the stilted house. After the shooting, investigators found the purse open on the passenger seat with the gun missing. Regardless of the exact storage location, the fact remained that for Brittany to have shot Tyler, she would have had to deliberately retrieve the weapon and then shoot Tyler whilst his back was turned. From the moment she was questioned by investigators, Brittany Holbrook's story began to evolve. What started as a claim of memory loss would eventually become a detailed narrative of self-defense that the physical evidence would completely contradict. In her first interview with detectives, Brittany claimed she had a gap in memory between going to bed and finding herself in the living room holding her bleeding boyfriend. When asked specifically about Tyler's final words, she insisted she didn't hear anything, directly contradicting roommate Jordan Kinn's account. The turning point in her first interrogation came when detectives asked for her fingerprints. "Would you be willing to consent to us taking a swab of your hands?" they asked. Brittany's demeanour immediately changed. She looked anxious, deflected the question, and refused. "I don't think so. I have blood all over my hands." "I don't know. I got Tyler's blood." To detectives, her reaction sounded like fear of being caught. But by her second interview, Brittany had remembered additional details. She now claimed that Tyler had gone to the bathroom and returned as a different person who began strangling her. "I remember not being able to breathe, and he was like crushing my esophagus," she told investigators. She described him pinning her against the bedroom wall, claiming it triggered PTSD from childhood abuse by her father. By her third interview, Brittany's story had become even more elaborate. She told investigators that Tyler had gone to the bathroom and returned as a different person who began attacking her without provocation. She claimed he squeezed her throat so tightly she couldn't breathe, and that she believed he was trying to kill her. According to this version of events, Brittany said she had punched and scratched Tyler in self-defense, but she continued to deny firing the gun, claiming she hadn't shot a weapon since moving from Stewart 9 months earlier. "I'm not a murderer. I would never kill him. I love him so much," she insisted to detectives. The detectives employed psychological pressure during the interrogations, at one point suggesting to Brittany that if someone were trying to strangle her, grabbing a gun for self-defense would be understandable. "If it's you versus him, it was him versus me in that situation," they said, trying to get her to admit to shooting Tyler. But Brittany continued to claim memory gaps. "I don't know what happened. I could make up a story that I feel like I would do. I don't even remember leaving the room, really." The problem with Brittany's evolving narrative was simple. The physical evidence didn't support any of it. The complete absence of strangulation marks on Brittany's neck, and the absence of petechiae in her eyes demolished any claim that Tyler had attempted to strangle her. The contrast between Tyler and Brittany's injuries was telling. Meanwhile, the forensic evidence supported Tyler being the victim of an attack, not the perpetrator of one. For the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, the investigation into Tyler Nulisch's murder was relatively straightforward. The case had essentially solved itself through 3 crucial pieces of evidence: the victim's dying declaration identifying his killer, the murder weapon belonging to the suspect, and Brittany Holbrook being the only other adult present in the living room when deputies arrived. But investigators needed to build a complete picture of what had led to Tyler's death. They interviewed friends and family members who painted a picture of a relationship that had hidden depths of violence and dysfunction. Almost everyone investigators spoke to mentioned the same thing: Brittany's dangerous relationship with alcohol and how it often turned her aggressive and violent towards Tyler. "We thought that her ex-boyfriend brought out the worst in Brittany from drinking," but it was really just her drinking in general that brought out the worst in her, one friend explained. Friend after friend recounted disturbing incidents. Marissa's testimony about Brittany's gutting fantasy became particularly crucial. Several of Tyler's friends confirmed hearing similar violent fantasies from Brittany about her ex-boyfriend. The evidence against Brittany was overwhelming. Her own gun had been used to kill Tyler. She was the only other person in the room when he died. Tyler had identified her as his killer with his final words, and the forensic evidence completely contradicted her claims of self-defense. On the 17th of June 2023, the same day Tyler died, Brittany Nicole Holbrook was arrested and charged with murder. Brittany Holbrook's path to trial was marked by failed legal maneuvering. With bond set at $750,000, she pleaded not guilty on the 28th of June 2023. Her defense team faced overwhelming evidence. On 6th January 2025, Judge Mark Wilson denied Brittany's Stand Your Ground motion, finding insufficient evidence to support self-defense. When trial began on the 18th of February 2025, prosecutors Joseph Mansfield and David Alvarez presented Tyler's dying declaration as their centerpiece, supported by forensic evidence and witness testimony. Her defense attempted a battered woman syndrome argument, claiming abuse from her father, previous boyfriends, and Tyler. They presented loving text messages and argued for manslaughter rather than murder. But the prosecution's case was devastating. When the case went to the jury on the 24th of February 2025, they deliberated less than 45 minutes, guilty of second-degree murder with a firearm. On 11th of April 2025, Judge Mark Wilson sentenced Brittany to 40 years in Florida State Prison. She must serve the first 25 years without the possibility of earned gain time. With credit for time served, her earliest possible release would be approximately 2048. For a man who found joy in simple pleasures, dropping a hook in the water, watching sunsets with his dog chief, his final act ensured justice would be served. Tyler lived 29 years more than most people ever do in a lifetime. Please don't forget Tyler Nulisch.